What's going on? Welcome back to Kicking It with the Keisters. I'm going to start off by apologizing to everybody. It's been way too long since we've put out a video. But as you can see, things haven't gone exactly as planned since I come back from visiting Mary. I don't think I stretched or did something to an ACL or an LCL in my left knee. And more recently, I already had a torn rotator cuff in both of my shoulders. And I recently re-tore a little worse than before this one. So I'm trying to get healed up here so we can get back to what we call normal. And but Mary has been doing her part. She's a trooper, as always. She's got some footage for you. Last video, she was showing you how she picked and chose jobs. And now she's got a video on how she goes about finding housing and choosing the right housing and everything, especially when you can't go see it until you get there. So since I'm all jacked up, we're going to show her footage and thank her for coming through for me. Well, without further ado, let's get to her stuff.
Hey everybody. So Jeff's back home and I'm trying to do my part down here in Arkansas now. So we'll see how I do. I'm not very good at this technological stuff, but managed to get through pretty decently for most things. So in the last video, told you guys that I was going to be going to Missouri, Springfield, Missouri. And one of the things that I left out about how I determine where I want to go is housing. So I always like to check the area beforehand, and I had before I even submit to places, because sometimes the pay doesn't match what you have to pay for rent. Sometimes there's long distances of travel that you have to go. Sometimes it's very hard to find housing. There was one that I had looked at one time in upstate New York, and the closest housing was in Canada. And I unfortunately do not have my passport yet. So that wasn't an option for me. So I had looked at a couple of different places for housing. So I'm going to kind of go over the places that I look for. I've learned over time, sometimes I do a hotel, sometimes I do like Airbnb, or I find a person to rent off of. And I'm going to show you a couple of those websites, a couple of groups on Facebook. There's a lot of different travel nursing groups on Facebook that have really helped me out a lot. And I try to give back and put my 2 cents in on posts there. But I'm going to show you a little bit of the housing aspect of it, because you're going to be going somewhere. You need a place to stay. And you everybody has their own needs as far as housing. Since I'm trying to get my master's, I need to make sure that I have Wi-Fi wherever I go. I made the mistake one time of not having Wi-Fi, and luckily my car had Wi-Fi, because otherwise I was in the middle of nowhere and there was not real good internet or cell reception. So I really struggled trying to get my school assignments done there. So it really depends on your own personal needs as far as housing goes. You can share a house, you can get a place to yourself, you can rent a room out, get a hotel room, you can do the long stay hotels. There's so many different options. Eventually, like we were talking about in I think it was a second video, we're going to get an RV. So then we'll just have to find out where RV parks are. And that's a whole nother beast that we're going to have to try to figure out and navigate when that time comes, especially in certain places at certain times of the year. It's harder to find housing. So I'm going to kind of go over, like I said, the couple of different things that I've found useful and helpful. If any of you have any suggestions, want to add anything, have questions, comments, feel free to, like, message, comment. Make sure you subscribe to our channel so you can keep up on our adventures and follow us to wherever we go next. And I'm going to go ahead and get started and show you a couple of different websites. So the first place that I usually will check out is Airbnb. I like because I can pick a lot of different things. So you can kind of narrow your searches down. So I already have mine in here. My dates, because I ultimately went with Airbnb. Let's see. It's taking a sweet time to load. So the dates that I chose were December 11th through March 14th. My last shift here in Arkansas is December the 10th, and we have to be out of the house that we're currently renting on the 11th. So luckily, it's only a 4.5 hour drive or so to Springfield from here. So I will be making it to there the day that I'm supposed to be out of here. For longer trips, sometimes I have to make a 2-day or 3-day travel. So I usually have to find a hotel room to stay at. I'm a planner, so I like to already have my route mapped out, the hotel reservation already made. I wish I could be one of those spontaneous people who just drives until they're tired and then finds a spot to sleep and then, picks up and does the same thing the next day. I am not one of those people. Really wish I could be, but I'm not. So this assignment, I will be working overnight. So the end of my assignment, the end of my contract says March 13th. So sometimes you have to work that last shift. Sometimes you're lucky and you don't have to. Like where I'm at now, I got to make my schedule. So I made sure that I had off like 2 days before my assignment ended so that I could have time to get to my next assignment because I didn't know where I was going to be. So March 14th is the date that I chose for the ending date. I don't like going right up until the last day of the assignment because then if you work day shift or night shift and you have to work that day, then you have to have your car packed and everything. I've had my car packed and had to leave right after work or had to leave right after working a night shift. And sometimes that can be a little bit much. My contract ends March 13th. So I picked the 14th. I'm really hoping that I don't have to work the night of the 13th, or else I'm going to be in this situation where I'm going to have my car packed or go back and pack it that morning so that I can get out of there. So there's lots of different places that you can stay. You can pick to have the entire place to yourself. You can have a private room. They even have hotel rooms listed on here. You can do a shared space. And it depends. Me being on night shift on the next one, I know that I would prefer to have an entire place to myself. It just makes it a little bit easier, unless I know my roommates, or if the person that I'm sharing a space with is also night shift. So usually I will do an entire place. I have shared housing before. Currently sharing a house with two other girls. But I knew one of them from my last assignment, so that was kind of nice. You can break it down by price. So, depending on how much you want to pay, a lot of times I will base that on what my income is going to be. So if I'm making a little bit more, then I'll increase my budget a little bit more. But it really just depends. I like to click buttons. Which I apparently clicked on something. Okay. So on here you can see, there's ratings. I like to look at the reviews. They don't give you exactly where they're located, but they do give you like the town usually. It'll tell you if they have 1 bed, 2 beds, if they have a washer, dryer, Wi-Fi, those kinds of things. It's all going to depend on what you prefer. I like to find a place that has a kitchen. I've done a place that didn't really have a kitchen, just had a microwave. And I found that I spent a lot more for eating out. So it wasn't the best decision, but you learn from your mistakes. Like I said, Wi-Fi is always a must for me now. And then I just like to look at the room that I'll be staying in, the house that I'll be staying in. Are there a lot of windows? Especially with being like night shift right now. So this one here's got all those windows behind it, right behind the bed. Doesn't look like they're the blackout curtains. So that could be problematic. I like to look at all the pictures to see what the area looks like. So I'll go through and look at the pictures. But yeah, so there's a lot of nice things about Airbnb. There's usually a good bit of places to choose from. So, and like I said, it just kind of depends on what you're looking for on there. So, Furnish Finder is another one. I have not used them myself. I've looked on there for a couple of different times, just to kind of see. There we go. We'll do, that's not really my budget, but just to see if it gives us a bigger option. But yeah, I have not personally used this. Oh, well. Oh, all right. So this one has like an available date. They are a lot of times, from what I've seen, there have been some entire units. There have been some that are just a room. You really kind of have to look at these. Some of these do not include utilities, which with Airbnb, they're always included. Now, whether you have a TV or if you have cable, or a lot of places are going to like the smart TVs or whatever, that's, up to the person that's providing the housing. But yeah, so a lot of these wouldn't work for me anyways, because they aren't available until January and February. And then sometimes you actually have to contact them for availability. So I have looked on here for like price comparison, or if I can't find anything else, if there wasn't really anything on Airbnb, and I'm really set on a place, and I've looked on here, but I have not actually used this website. I know that there are some people that have, and they like it better than Airbnb. But again, it's all just personal preference. So then the last place that I'm going to talk about is on Facebook. So I know some people don't really like Facebook. They don't think that it's very good for much, but I have found that the the Gypsy Nurse groups on Facebook have been very, very helpful for me. The Travel Nurse Housing one, it's actually sponsored by Furnish Finder, but anybody can post on there that's a member. So let's see. About housing, and that's, that's why what they want to keep it to. So there are people on here that are looking for housing, and then there are people on here that are posting about housing. So I have let me see. So within this group, you can search. Sorry, I just had a total brain fart. You can search for a specific place. I have used this and actually found my housing in Connecticut on here and made a really great friend. So that was wonderful. I've looked on here for a couple other places to stay, but I've never ended up staying there. So the other things that you can do are you can do like a Yahoo search for long-term, short-term leases. You can look for like the long-term stay hotels. Those are all options. And it's really up to you where you decide to go. There's also a RV Nurse Travel Gypsy group on Facebook too that you can look up as well if you have an RV and you're looking for ideas, or just how to get started with travel nursing if you already have your RV and you want to do that kind of thing. But yeah, there's like tons of different ways that you can find housing. Those are just a couple that I've used. So I'm not getting paid by any of them. They're not sponsoring me at all. They probably don't even know that I exist, other than to take my money. So they're not not contributing in any way. But I just find that they're the easiest ones to work with and to go to and research housing, even if I don't end up using one of those sites. Like I said, Furnish Finder I've not used. And I've used the Gypsy Housing site on Facebook once. But it's always a good option to research. So again, if you guys have any questions or comments, please comment below. Or ask your questions below, and like and subscribe, and I will keep giving you all some travel nurse tips, and we'll see you next time. Bye.